Hi! Hello and welcome to this month's Sydney Talks About Things. This month we're going to be talking about self-care and putting a big old definition on that frequently used word. So we're going to spend a little bit of time thinking about what self-care could look like and how it exists in our lives and how it already exists in our lives. And I'd like to present you with a couple of examples.
Brushing your teeth. Reading a book. Doing your homework. Oh, eating a vegetable. Taking a walk. Taking a shower. Having fun with friends.
Pretty funny. Self-care looks like a whole bunch of different things, but ultimately it is the practice of actively and consciously taking care of yourself. There are different kinds of self-care, and you'll find throughout this list that many of them bleed together. So the different kinds of self-care that I'd like to kind of pinpoint and focus on today are physical self-care, workplace/school self-care, emotional self-care, and spiritual self-care. Physical self-care looks exactly like it sounds. It's what you do with your body and what you put in it, what you put out of it, the amount of sleep you get, the amount of physical exercise you're doing, the amount of sunlight you get. It's about what this meat suit does and receives. Workplace self-care, or in our case, school place self-care, looks like professional development. Are you meeting with your profs? Are you meeting with your TAs? Are you getting your work done on time? Do you have a schedule? Do you know what's coming up? Are you prepared for the tasks that you're going to take on in this environment? Emotional self-care looks like everything that goes on in your mind on a moment-to-moment basis. It's how you're feeling, it's how you're existing, and the ways that you're coping with the current state of the world and everything that's going on. It's quite literally, how do you feel? What are you feeling? And spiritual self-care kind of looks like the long-term version of emotional self-care. Spiritual self-care is that idea of how you're coping with concepts larger than ourselves, concepts larger than us as a nation, us as a species, the greater idea of what is beyond and what we're capable as human beings. So that's great, that's fine, that's dandy. You'll notice that all of those different kinds of self-care really bleed into one another, and that you could be practicing self-care such as sleeping, taking a nap. Let's talk about sleep specifically, and we'll use that as our example. While it is something that would affect your physical self-care because it is part of this meat suit and everything that's going on there, it will also improve your professional development in the workplace, and it will also improve your emotional well-being. You'll be more alert. It makes people happier a lot of the time, and sometimes too much sleep makes people sad. So it plays into one another, and it kind of snowballs through all the categories, and you'll find that there's a lot of different pieces of self-care that you don't necessarily know where to place, and that's totally fine. The important part is that you recognize that those are things that are good and helpful for you. Now let's develop a self-care plan. So there's 3 steps, super easy. Step number 1, identify what makes you happy. What in each of these categories is something that's going to fulfill your needs and make you smile? Step number 2, you are going to set meaningful time apart to spend on these things that you have identified that make you happy, that make you feel good, that are nourishing your meat suit or nourishing your squishy little brain or improving your work in the workplace or answering these larger questions for you. Setting meaningful time apart to focus on you. And finally, step number 3 is a continual step that you will refer to frequently throughout this journey on developing a self-care plan, Forgive yourself and stop feeling guilty for doing the things that help you grow. Know your limits, stick within it. Is that for gambling or something? What I mean to say is know yourself, know what makes you happy, and don't feel guilty for doing those things. So then that point there brings me to my myths about self-care, and I've got two. Number one, self-care is indulgent or selfish. No, self-care is about being mindful and putting energy into making sure that you take care of yourself. You can better serve yourself and those around you when you're operating at maximum capacity, or at maximum capacity for yourself, like understanding yourself and sticking your limit and staying within it. I didn't write that down. That was an improv bit, so I hope that turned out okay. Anyways, myth number two, self-care is time-consuming. No way, Jose. Wrong. It can be as quick, as easy as filling up a water bottle. Congrats, you did self-care. Self-care is quite literally everything that you're doing to make yourself feel better and operate as a better meat suit and squishy body suit. Squishy body brain. And finally, to wrap this whole video up, I'd like you to work on the worksheet. If you've got time, you could just look at it, you could just think about these things, but share your self-care plan and your self-care ideas with those around you and keep them close to your heart, because it's something that's going to take a lot of time and a lot of effort, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a 6 hours you sit down and you hash it out and then you're good for the month. It's going to be a constant thing. It's going to be something that stays with you in your life and affects the way that you interact with yourself, the way that you interact with your work, with your art, and with those around you. I'm gonna just say it. I'm just gonna come out and say it. Taking care of yourself is something that you need to be focused on. And I want you to understand that I am here to help support you through this. There are loved ones and friends in your life who are willing to support you through this. And there's also an entire university community behind me and behind you that is willing to help support you through this journey, because this is a really important part of your life. So yeah, that's my bit. I hope you enjoyed my video. Hope you're having a great October. I can't wait to see you guys this Halloween. It's gonna be stellar. Woo woo! Have a good night, guys.